Good morning, Electric Culture of Safety line team. Appreciate y'all coming aboard and visiting us for 064. What is a safety professional? Huh? Michael, welcome back. Michael Starner. He is CUSP. He's outside line safety with NECA, National Electrical Contractors Association. And I realized that old song we used to hear back in the 70s, Johnny Cash wrote long time ago. He said, "I've been everywhere, man." And he wrote that song, and I had no clue that that song was about this young man right here. And this is Mike. This is your second trip. Welcome back, brother.
Oh, we're so happy to be here.
Man.
I mean, the work that you're doing here with ECOS and you know, the banner, I don't know where it is behind us, or you know, folks are familiar with the ECOS banner, all the different participating organizations. It's really growing. I like it that it's you know, you give in what you get out of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, you got folks that are participating, and NECA's certainly proud to be here to do that too, right? So NECA has a all of industry approach. We hear that tagline now, all of government approach to things. Well, NECA has an all of industry approach, whether it's you know, working with suppliers and manufacturers. Our members, of course, we're supporting their interests, but we're working with safety organizations, regulators, the customers. We're out there helping to raise the tide, because if we get it right, we can really have some significant change.
Yeah, and this is Mike's second trip here. In fact, Mike Starner, he's the one that brings you the love. And the reason why is because he was here on Valentine's Day last year. And here he is Valentine's Day tomorrow. So this guy's all about, right there, he cares, man. And that's why he comes here. We talked last time, a similar situation where it was kind of a round table deal, and we talked about the dark woods and what that means in the industry. And that was one of the most fun times that I've had with a webinar, Electric Culture of Safety, Linemen Safety National Webinar. This happens to be 064. 14,000 plus members now. We call them partners that are on board all around the country, Canada, and some international, that receive these for no cost. And we're looking for a few more speakers for this year, 2025. Email me, safetytraining@bierermeters.com. Email me if you would like to present a presentation, a topic from your heart right here. People ask, what do you want me to talk about? It's like, I don't want you to talk about anything except what you want to talk about and what you want to share. And that's what Mike does. He just shares what he wants to talk about. And that's the deal here today. What is a safety professional? So I'm excited. This is our third year. We're on our third anniversary, Mike, and appreciate NECA's support and endorsing Mike to come here. He just came back from T&D partnership, OSHA, in Miami.
Yeah.
Were you getting a tan?
I didn't
get
out
on the beach.
I didn't get out the South Beach, you know, but maybe next time. You know,
Okay.
I could use a little bit of a tan, but hopefully we'll get out of this winter weather here soon. You know, I'm in Maryland, so we just had a couple batches. I know people that are Midwest have been dealing with some weather, and so waiting for that summertime weather for sure.
Yeah.
So you know, yes, the partnership is that's a venue where we get together and we talk about how can we, you know, raise the tide, right? How can we get everybody who's involved in the industry to have some discussion about working together? You know, it's a coalition. So yeah, NECA cares. That's really what we do. We care, and we believe that if you approach anything with competence and caring, you can make significant change. And that's really going to tie into what we're talking about today. What's a safety professional? I think sometimes we box ourselves in with taglines or identifiers, or, you know, you get locked into a specific role and people expect certain things out of you. And so folks that have heard me talk before, you know, I try to say safety is an outcome, and we apply safety as a tag to everything. So safety rules, the safety professional, the safety training. If we just back up a minute, take that safety out of there for a minute. So what we're talking about, what's a professional, right? And so let me ask you, Brent, you get around the country. So thinking about the professionals that impact the outcome, safe outcome, what are some of the roles, some of the people that you interact with?
So to me, I see both sides of the scale, and I see the side of the scale where you have compliance as far as a professional, where we got to do these rules. It's command and control. And then I see the other side to where it is about caring. And so I see both sides, and I feel like we're starting to see a push to where we have a balance, of both sides, where we see the command and control starting to go away a little bit, and folks are starting to realize, hey, there's more to this. It's let's bring in some what I call human relations into
Yes.
this, HR, literally, and less on the command and control, more on the caring, more on the competence, more on the courage, more on the accountability, and being honest with each other. We're starting to see a push for that. And Mike, I believe as a professional, as an outside line safety professional, I believe you're powerful in helping turn this chapter.
Well, we gotta back up a minute and just be regular people, right? We're just people. We all have things that we're trying to deal with in our life. We all have our goals and aspirations. One of the things that safety professionals struggle with is imposter syndrome. We never really feel like we're worthy of that tagline, I'm a safety professional. What does that mean? So when I talk to folks, and we joke that I'm a utility safety generalist, but I've had a mix of responsibilities through my career, working in the field, managing field level people, operations, and then getting into safety. So I got into safety later in the game, and when I got sat down, my boss says, you are the technical expert. People are going to come to you for answers. You better have the right answers, and think about what that does to a developing safety professional, that mindset. Are they always going to feel like they're worthy of this thing? And do they always feel like they're like reserved and maybe not? What we can do is just be regular people, get out and talk, identify. Don't be so worried about getting something wrong. We're a learning organization. We're learning individuals. We practice safety. We don't know safety. There's no finish line. So just like doctor practices medicine, you have to continuously get your boots in the dirt and figure out what's happening. You're going to get bumps and scrapes. You're going to get some things wrong, but each one of those things helps you get better. So like my knowledge and my skill base developed over time.
Right.
And it's bits, I don't know it all. And there's a lot of things that I get wrong and I say, whoa, I sounded foolish there, but let me correct. But guess what? That locks it in. So the next time I'm dealing with this, you'll say, not making that mistake again. And things are always changing. You talked about compliance, command and control. Safety we used to hear the term safety officer, right? The safety was sort of an enforcement person. So operations is going out there doing their thing. You put the safety officer in place to make sure everybody's following the rules. So it was a rule-based sort of approach. That has shortcomings, right?
Absolutely.
And so we need to understand that it goes well above and beyond compliance, this rule-based environment, and we're starting to really get there, right? We're starting to think about human and organizational performance. And when I think about it, safety, to get that safe outcome, right? Let's take safety as an outcome. It's really a few things that you're dealing with. You're dealing with hazard management. How do you identify and control hazards? You're dealing with field leadership, organizational leadership, but more importantly, field leadership. You're dealing with competence levels, making sure people are competent. So that's your work methods, your trainers that are out there. And all those things feed in. And then when you understand the human piece, the human and organizational, how the human and the organization tie together, then you start to understand it's not just about rules.
That's right. Yeah, I was introduced to this mindset, this consciousness that we're talking about. It's not all about rules. It's about the human, the human aspect, the connectivity aspect, as far as connecting with one another. Synchronicity is what we're talking about here. I went to Arizona Public Service in Arizona doing training there. Mr. Daryl Yoakum, great system, great mindset that they have. They look at themselves, the safety folks in APS, they look at themselves as safety coaches. Now, that is really cool, because if you have a line team and everybody's on the same wavelength and you have safety coaches, it's like, what's happening is it's not that wall of division between the safety people and your line team. You're looking at the safety person with respect, and the safety person is coaching you also with respect. So again, you're on the same wavelength, and everybody that wants to win this game called Let's Go Home Safe, let's have well-being, let's work together on that wavelength. what they do is they look for that coach for that support, and any weaknesses the coach points it out, and the people on the line team, they point out their weaknesses as far as working to be safe and getting that job done efficiently and productively. That's a word now.
I like it.
Yeah, it's new. But they work together as a team with the safety coach. And I think that is a system that we should start implementing a little more is, hey, coach, put me in, man. I'm ready to play this game. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. Come on, let's win this game.
It's a mosaic.
Yeah.
Like, if you kind of think about it like a relay race with the baton, safety is not just one role, right? It's a whole spectrum of different roles. Whether you're a field level safety director and you're out there managing safety on the job site and trying to influence behaviors in real time, whether you're the the general foreman who's trying to set up a project, or a project manager setting up a project for success, identifying things on the front end, right? Prevention through design, or looking at things from a planful perspective, or whether you're the manager that's got responsibility for the program, implementation of the program, or you're the top of the house, the chief safety officer. These are all different avenues. And then to make it even more complex, you have people that work in your methods department, engineering and standards, that are developing standards that help produce safe outcomes. You have your technical advisors and trainers, right? I always say the trainers is where you hang your hat. These guys, you want to know how work is supposed to be performed, and people that really care and want to make a difference, those trainers make a big difference. And then you think about the safety professional who's out there advocating for the things that we're doing. It's a mosaic. So if you're thinking about you're running a relay race in the baton, you got to understand when it's time for you to hand it off to the next person. Right. You might need an industrial hygienist to weigh in, right? Because you don't understand the more technical nature of this thing. You may need to deal with sort of like a person that really knows human performance and risk management and has a different perspective. Or you might need somebody who understands the standards and the code, right? Or the regs, right? Yeah. I always say again that if you want to understand the regs, talk to people who litigate cases with OSHA cases, because they understand how the courts will approach an issue. So, OSHA guidelines, that's just basic compliance. These are the minimum standards that you have to meet. We always fight over, is it saying this? Is it saying that? How do we interpret this? You want to know how it's going to be interpreted? Look at case law.
Yeah.
But you can get caught in, that's a tar pit. Don't get caught up in that. We want to go above and beyond that. So you have compliance. You have best practices that are say, okay, through operating experience or things like the partnership, we develop best practices because we say we can take this to the next level. And then you overlay on top of that the consensus standards that are out there. So, some of the more technical standards are out there that sort of formulate what the program's supposed to look like. And OSHA doesn't in their standards always point to specific things. There's not a lot of incorporated through reference for our work. But they do have guidelines in the back, appendix, that tells you where to go and get information. They're pointing to consensus standards because OSHA recognizes that when industry comes together and they're aligned on a certain issue, that's a best practice. So when you're looking at how we approach safety and who has a role in safety and who touches safety and who has an impact on the outcome of safety, it is everybody under the sun, and we have to understand that you may not know it all, and you don't need to feel like you know it all. And if you can approach it, people are forgiving. People are on the same journey. I know there's people watching today, they're thinking, what is my career going to look like? What's my next move? Do I need to get a certification? Do I need to go attend some kind of training? It's all of that. Right. But the most important thing to do is just relax. Nobody's perfect. All of us feel like we're not as best as we should be, or we're kind of falling short.
Right.
And then there's days where we feel like rock stars because we got it right and we're getting feedback. But the outcome that we're looking for is that these guys and gals go home at the end of the day. Right, and there's no nobler cause than that.
Yeah, it's the feedback. What's interesting is, we have the rules. We have which I look at the rules, regulations. I look at them like the foundation of the house. I call it the house of safety. I look at that as the foundation. That's it. Blood was shed. Someone got hurt. So there's a new rule. We start building on top of that foundation, our skills, our training, and what we start building is that house of safety, but also sharing. The word here, cares. Nika cares. So we need to be able to have that house of safety where it's strong enough to weather any storm, you hear about these storms that come in the Northeast and the Midwest, the tornadoes and the hurricanes and the Southeast. You hear about these tornadoes and these things. We just had a huge one come through friggin' South Carolina and Georgia and up in North Carolina, as you know. And you hear about these storms. Well, I like to look at line work as, if we're not communicating and we're not connecting, I like to look at line work as it's a catastrophe. It's a storm. And when you start caring for one another, that's when we actually start rebuilding the grid of connecting with each other. And we form a circuit, a line team of safety. And then that house of safety, when we start forming that circuit and forming that grid, we start sharing. We share incidences freely without concern that we're going to be mocked, we're going to be reprimanded. And man, I tell you what, you start building concrete walls, and shoot, you go down to Florida, they're starting to build some houses down there with friggin' concrete shingles on some of those. The Hurricane Cat 6 is going to hit, and that house is going to stand. Well, hey guys, I don't know about you all, but I've seen some Cat 5s out there in line work where a couple of linemen won't come home from a particular restoration. And to me, those are storms. And how'd that happen? Well, if you look at the report, the root cause, lineman made contact. He was electrocuted, made contact. But I'll tell you what, I see more and more of the truth that the root cause is not that report, but the root cause is the fact that there was a storm on that line team and they were not, poles were broken, there was the conductors were on the ground and they weren't connecting. And I like to see more of that. And Mike, I think I'm starting to see more and more of that through NECA as well, where there's more communication, better connectivity.
Yeah, that is where the rubber hits the road. So what you just talked about with the storms is system hardening, right? So, the hurricanes that used to hit the Florida and wreak havoc and would be weeks and weeks of restoration, now they're able to survive, recover from storms in days. That's resilience. And that's hardening. Yeah. And so if we approach our industry the same way, how our work is performed, how we're preparing and developing not just our workers, but our safety professionals, what we're doing is hardening the system.
That's right.
And we're being more resilient. How can, are you going to be able to weather the storm? Are you able to recover and be agile enough in the moment to make decisions and changes that are not going to get you in hot water, but give you additional safety?
Right.
So that's where, building capacity into your work plan, understanding how the work was planned initially. There may be changes that are happening on the job site, deviations that are happening on the job site that are necessary to keep the job moving.
Right.
But what support system is around that? So personal involvement, I had a heart-to-heart with one of my bosses one time. He says, as a leader, you have to be personally involved.
Nice.
You can't always delegate things. You may have to visit a customer. You may have to be involved in incident investigation. You may have to go talk to the crew. You may have to do this and that. You need to be personally involved. Personal involvement helps you understand the context of what's going on around you, but more importantly, it gives you direct influence. I always use this analogy, and I don't know if it's a good one or not, and I don't really have the answer to this, but I see like a small business owner. Maybe it's a guy that does plumbing work or maybe electrical or carpentry or something. He's got a little van. He's probably got a helper. The van is clean. He's got hand stenciled phone number on there, right? Pinstriping. He is personally involved in that business, right? The tools and equipment on the van are organized. Now, that's not always the rule. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but generally, I see that. What is that? What is it that makes that look that way, and the perceptions that way, and the outcomes are that way at that small scale? And how can we duplicate that on a larger scale?
Right.
I mean, one of the things that we struggle with is the ratio between our field leadership and our crews. We don't have the luxury. General foremen, safety supervisors, a lot of these are non-billable positions, so it's all overhead. So you try to say, okay, how can I achieve my goals with the least amount of overhead as possible? That puts you in a position where you're keeping that as lean as you can without getting yourself in hot water. You might have a general foreman has to drive 100 miles to see the next crew. Strive for 5 is what we say. If you're working an 8-hour day, a field leader should be boots on the ground on a job site at least 5 hours out of that day. Of course, we have administrative things that we have to work on, and I know a lot of you guys watching this, or gals are watching this, are saying, man, I'd love to be out in the field, but I have to be on this call, I have to work on this committee, I have to work on this incident review, I have to do this, that, or the other, and before I know it, it's lunchtime and I haven't even left the shop. That's a problem. So you have to figure out, working with your team, how can I get those burdens off of me? I can get out on the job site, because the more time that you can be on that job site, having direct influence, being personally involved, now you become that guy that has the little van with the hand stencil phone number, and everything is high and tight because you're personally involved. Everybody understands where you lie, you know, what your objectives are. You're able to identify those deviations that are occurring in real time and give some coaching, right? You talk about the coach element.
Yeah.
I think it's really that simple, right? We can overcook this thing and come up with all these different philosophies and put all these things together. But if you can get your field leaders to be on a job site enough that it's not out of the ordinary, and we have relationships, and we can tell jokes and laugh, and I can say to you and challenge you in a way that you're not going to get all bent out of shape. If we can do that, we can do it all.
Yeah. No, those are great aspects, great points as far as what does it mean to be a safety professional. Mike, you brought up becoming personal with your team, and to me, that's a point. You know, we have to produce, we have to make money to stay in business, but I like to come at it from a whole different perspective, and that perspective is that we have to put an investment into people. We have to make people feel like they have value. And I tell you what, when you give a job to your best performing guy or gal out in the field, because you know they're going to get her done, but you don't really want to know all the details, but you know they're going to get it done, versus handing that job over to the person that you know everybody on that line team is going to come back home safely. They're going to get the job done. It might take them several hours, several days longer, but everybody comes home. You still make profit, but the people come back home happy. They're not going to be jumping from job to job. I hear it all the time. I'm getting $1 more here. I've got more per diem here. I mean, it is so ridiculous. And what we're doing is we're just feeding. Think about this, guys and gals. We're literally feeding the fire. We're pouring gas on the fire.
Exactly.
When we allow these things happen, when there's an incident and that person that had the incident, guess what? He gets fired, and the higher ups use that person as a scapegoat, when the whole time the culture of safety was not established well from the CEO down properly. And there really wasn't a value felt or an investment made on the people that you want to get the job done. Be happy. You want them to stick around. Tell us some about that, Mike.
Well, when I hear you talking, I hear us chasing short-term goals, right? So, and look, in the contracting world, it's tough. There's a lot of demands.
Very tough.
You know, you have deadlines, you have burdens that are put on a project if it goes over, or if you have incidents. And so, you know, there's a lot of pressure, and that puts us in a mindset where we're kind of chasing short-term goals. And, you know, I don't want to get caught up in the buzzword around culture. Culture is a real thing, and it's important, but it's really about understanding all these different inputs into the system have long-term effects. And those effects can be detrimental, right? Erode trust, or they can add trust. They can add competency, or they can degrade competency. It can help you get a project knocked out quickly, but got a guy cutting corners. Now you've reinforced poor work methods. So what's the long-term goal? And it's really about connecting with people. It's really about understanding that if we're trying to get from point A to point B, we have to have an all-of-industry approach, and we have to get you know, folks involved in things that, you know, outside their comfort zone sometimes, right? People don't always want to get involved in certain things, right? You'll hear, I just want to get paid. I just want to earn my paycheck. Look, that's our arrangement. I come do the work, you give me a paycheck. Okay, and, you know, I can get there, but what impact are you having on the industry? It's going to take all of us. Let me tell you, the dark woods was all about where our industry is, and over the next couple of decades where it will be. We're not going to get through the dark woods if we're not changing that paradigm where, you know, helping folks understand that, you know, we have long-term objectives, And, building trust is the most important thing. Patrick Lsnw has a book, and he talks about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And so the opposite is also true. What are the things that help you be a functional team?
Right.
So at the bottom, the pyramid is about being vulnerable and establishing trust, right? Because if you can build that, then you can do all the other things. Because if I trust you, now the next tier up is having conflict, debate.
Yeah.
Right. So I can challenge you.
Yeah.
Think about stop work authority.
Right.
Stop work authority has become a buzzword. And, yes, we have a stop work authority program, and everybody has the right to stop the job. And in some cases, we hear everybody has the responsibility to stop the job. But what does that really look like in practice? In practice, it means the folks on the job site have to first recognize that there's something that needs to be stopped. Second, they need to be able to talk to each other and make that happen.
Right.
If you're a seasoned lineman that feels like you got it figured out and everybody's looking up to you, you're going to be less likely to stop a job, because it's almost like admitting that you're going sideways, and that's not always the case. But maybe there's some overconfidence, maybe there's some protecting the interests there. If you're a younger guy, you don't know enough, you don't have enough context yet, right? Or you don't feel confident enough yet to say, we need to stop right now. The flip side of that is when people really feel like something's going to go wrong or their life's in danger, they generally protect themselves, but what are they doing for everybody else, right? So if I thought something getting ready to blow up, I'd be like, I'm getting out of here. Am I grabbing your hand and saying, Brett, let's get out of here? That's the real challenge that we have. So stop work authority is so heavily dependent on the culture and the trust on that job site, and for you to be able to challenge each other. Because if I bring up something that nobody else has seen or doesn't really believe the same way that I believe, that's something you have to sell, right? You have to be able to convince people that it's time to stop the job. You can't just do that if you don't have the right culture.
Man, I hope you all are taking notes. Pause, take a note. When you get the recording, ask me for the recording. We have 64 amazing speakers, but get the recording. But what's amazing here, all these key elements that Mr. Mike is touching on are so important. You got the personal, you've got connecting, you've got trust, you got all these things. Timothy R. Clark, he wrote a book, Four Steps of Psychological Safety. And I really would like, when an apprentice shows up on day one, is that these skills, it's a skill. Okay, we spend too much time learning how to climb a pole, too much time learning how to change out a transformer, way too much time spending on how to wire up some banks. I want to see that safety professional, day one, being allowed to spend some time with these apprentices, day one, or at a lineman's rodeo, they have challenges, and then they have a mystery event. I've seen some mystery events where they have them under a tent. Why can't the mystery event be a test on leadership and communication skills? Why? But I want to see where it's safe. And basically this is what Mike and I are kind of talking about here, this house of safety we're building that can handle these storms, all right, on our crew mentally, where it's safe to be included. Everybody, I don't care if these folks are just day one, it has to be made safe for them to be included to talk.
Yes.
It has to be safe to learn. They don't know anything. Oh, you're dumber than a rock. What kind of statement is that? That is horrible to say. We got to encourage and, like Mike was saying, build trust. All right, so it's got to be safe to learn. It's got to be safe to participate. And the fourth thing, and Mike, you brought this up, it's got to be safe to challenge the status quo. We need to look in the mirror, each one of us, each one of you all that are watching this. And I highly recommend that you start something. I know many folks that have started something in a utility or a contractor, just one person, and they started studying books on communication, on leadership skills, on connectivity, and they started talking to folks around it. Hey, I'm studying. And guess what? I have seen utilities and contracting companies to where it blossoms out, and the whole mindset is changed. Tell us some of those things, Mike.
You mentioned line schools and apprentices and the opportunity we have at that level, and I love it. I love going to seeing these new folks their eyes are big,
Yeah.
they're excited, they don't fully understand what they're about to get themselves into yet, but they're excited about it. There's a lot of optimism. Get involved with your new people.
Yeah.
And I'll go a step further,
Yeah.
right? Because what we're talking about today is safety professionals. We spend a lot of time talking about workforce development. I don't think we talk nearly enough about safety professional development.
Yeah.
And so think about in your organization, if you have people that you have responsibility for, how are you setting them up? How are you giving them the opportunity to build a network,
Yes.
whether it's within your organization, but more importantly, outside the organization. So think about ways that you can get involved in other things. Of course, there's costs to be aware of and expenses associated with that and time and getting away from all that. It's an investment in developing these safety professionals. Having a network, having a distribution list where you can send emails bouncing around. I'm on several of those things. So as I go through my career and I get involved with new groups, I try to build out my network, and I share ideas and I learn things from people. Developing safety professionals. There's things you can do. For a field, craft person who's now moving into a role of safety, help them make that transition from doing the work to managing the safety related to that work.
Yeah.
What are some of the skill sets that are important to have? How do you approach an issue? How do you become relatable? How do you have influence? If that person is moving up in the chain and now, you want to make sure that they have some qualification and certification. We talk about qualification and certification for work methods. Safety people are the same way. I talked before about it's the practice.
Yeah.
You learn as you go. Getting involved in organizations. I know NRECA has a really good, rock solid, certified loss control professional program. So that's something that they do to help people manage risk. We have a NECA Safety Professionals Institute. Missouri Valley's ATC has a powerline safety specialist program. And look, everybody is starting to go down this road and thinking about how they're developing their people. But figure out what can you invest in your safety professionals, get them involved in some of these efforts.
Yeah.
Committee work, whether it's if you're on the inside of the house or the outside of the house, so you might be working with 70E or NFPA stuff, or you might be working more with IEEE standards. See if it makes sense to get your guy who has some technical expertise involved in this committee work. Because I'll tell you what, you learn and you develop being on committees because you're working with technical experts. And that's where I get a lot of development. USLN with Certified Utility Safety Professional, that's a great way. The conference, getting involved at conferences and not just sitting in the seat, but presenting.
Yeah.
Right? This kind of stuff we're doing. Look, 10 years ago, I'd have felt like a heel sitting here doing this. You have to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Maybe you're going to do a safety talk for your department or your division. Maybe you usually sit in the back or something. Sit in the front row. Raise your hand. I want to participate. I want to help make a difference. And the more you get out, you knock that rust off or the barnacles off of you, and you get some sort of like competency with presenting and conveying your message. That's going to help you when you're trying to make a difference on the job site.
That's right.
Right? So they're all skill sets that we need.
Yeah. So Mike is sharing, again, that's why I call him a utility safety generalist. It's the only guy I know that's who he is, okay? And that's what he does. But what I see here is we're looking at what is a safety professional, and I see this. How do you measure that? Okay? I'm going to ask you all a question. How do you measure that? How do you gauge that? How do you know that it's working? And here's how we do. We share bierermeters. We share all around the country what we call a line worker safety tool competence workshop, which is actually an all-day thing now, 3 sessions all day. And we take session 1, session 2, and this is cool, Mike. And we do this for all your members. That's not a problem, and we don't charge. So what's cool is session 3 is we take line worker safety tool competence, learning the skills, learning the rules, best work practices, incident prevention, and we take that, and then we take what I call your electric reality, which is a second session, which is how you train each other and teach each other how to connect, what that looks like. And then we take it out in the field. Now this is so important, and you all can ask me for the curriculum. I'll send it to you. You can mold it and use it however you want and never even call me. It's fine. But anyways, the third session after lunch, we go outside, we go to substation or wherever, and we take session 1, session 2, and we take it out in the field, and then we talk about things on live line, energized circuits, and we actually apply sessions 1 and 2, and we stop the job. There'll be a guy in the bucket, the team will be around us, and we'll stop the job. Hey man, look at your TPG that's on the ground. You're grounding your truck. Look at the TPG. You've got a couple coils on the ground. Remember we talked about coils and how we need to mitigate that magnetic field in case they get hit with a fault current? Remember that?
Beautiful.
Let's straighten it out. At least put them in parallel if they're long, but let's not have no coil. So we discuss things. If you hear an inflection, a particular word, that's a red flag. I think it's okay. Oh wait, you think that pole's okay? Well, let's stop, because if you say you think it's okay, then you actually feel it might not be okay. So we got to mitigate these things, and it's through the things we see, and it's the things we hear. So what happens, Mike, is we learn safety profession. What is okay? This is okay. We learn by watching each other, hearing each other, seeing the equipment that each other works with, and we see, hear, and learn how to mitigate the hazards that are actually within us in the words we say and the things we do. And we talk about these hazards, and we discuss it openly, like you were talking, and freely, to where we can change the outcome of a possible incident, because we can predict incidences. If someone's tired on the crew, if someone's fatigued, if someone you could tell there's something on their mind, they got in a fight with a spouse, hey man, let's have that job brief, and let's build a house of safety. You want to be a safety professional, learn these skills, okay? I'm just saying, learn these skills, people skills, human relations, and let's see how we can mitigate, okay, and eliminate. And you can easily by truly being your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper. Not that tattoo, I said this yesterday, not the tattoo that says so. No, you get that on, you can say it, and I hear it all the time. I don't want to see it on your arm. I don't want to hear it said. I want to see it done in the field. That's how you measure. That's how you gauge. It's not the fact that you didn't have any incidences or serious injury and fatalities for the last 5 years. That's not how you measure these things at all. Is that true, Mike?
That's true. Here's my Valentine's Day tie-in. So those of us who've met your soulmate, you know it when you know it, right? It's authentic. You feel it. You don't have to think a lot about it, right? You just know there's a connection. So what we're after really is authenticity, an authentic relationship with our people. Everything you just talked about are all our little data points. Boom, boom, boom. They're all adding to the authenticity. Like I said, you're not chasing short-term goals, you're chasing long-term goals. What are the things that you're doing every day to create an authentic relationship?
Nice.
Between the people who you're working with? Because when things are not authentic, I'm the same way. I'm like, okay, I have a responsibility. I'm going to do this. I don't know if it's really worth the squeeze. But when you know the juice is worth the squeeze, you don't have to think about it twice. Stop work authorities the same way. All these things that we want to do become easier when you have trust, you have relationships, you're authentic. You get outside, you're getting off your high horse, and you're understanding that we're all fallible and we always make mistakes, and sometimes we were going down the right path, but now it's time to make a change. The quicker you can make that change, and the quicker people see you making that change, your authenticity grows, and then that's how you measure things, right?
Yeah.
It is tough in safety because you never know really what element of your program is what's preventing incidents. And sometimes fatalities are kind of strange because they're outliers. They don't really play into your predictability. But when you start to see your teams talking to each other, we talked before we sat on this podcast, we're talking about my role. And the last time we were together, I'm 4 years into my role. And the first couple years, I'm trying to help people understand who I am and what I'm all about and what I'm up to. And, it was all outbound. Hey, listen, if you have something going on, I'd love to come see your folks. Or if you have a safety thing, or, I'd love to be involved in this. it's starting to get to the point where people are reaching out to me and say, hey,
Yeah.
Mike, are you available in this state? Hey, can you help us with that? That's authenticity. That's
Nice.
because you're getting out. And look, I'm not just patting myself in the back. This is about developing safety professionals, folks that are trying to think about their career and how you can add relevancy. Think about how you can add value to where you're not asking to get involved. People
Yeah.
want you to be involved. And then think about that from a field safety perspective. When people want you to be on a job site,
Yeah.
hey, Mike, you gonna come out today? Yeah, I think I can make it out there. Yeah, for sure, man. You got something going on? Yeah, we have some questions about this setup or our EPZ. You know, this is a little complex. That's when you know you're getting it.
So you all can see exactly why, and you feel it. I know you guys can feel the vibration and frequency coming from this man. And that's actually a real thing, all right, folks? It's called free energy. And when we share that authenticity, that trust factor, the connectivity, the synchronicity, when we share all these things and we become a line team, guess what? Then you find out why Mike comes here on Valentine's Day. Okay? And it's actually caring, and it is a form of love. And guess what? You don't have to like each other to respect each other and show that love and care, because they have families at home just like you do. We all have relations back at home that we have to leave and make that dollar so we can feed those relations and take care of those relations back at home. But we've got to have that relationship with one another that keeps that growing, that fosters that. And I tell you what, anybody ever experience losing somebody on your line crew or hear about it? Those families are wrecked. Those families are distraught in their mindset, the chaos in their minds, the woulda, coulda, shouldas are horrible. And you do not want to experience putting somebody in the dirt. You don't want to experience that. Mike, just send us some go away love message, some Valentine. Send us another spout, man. We got to have that little heart, that little Hershey's kiss from Mike. But at a distance, give us one of those,
I'll
man.
give you a little kiss here. So keep it simple. You can be overly complex. You can get yourself caught up in trying to be the technical expert, and you know, are you saying all the right things and doing all the right things? It's more important to just be connecting with the people that you're around, understanding that you're trying to save lives, and if you care and you're competent, right? So you have to work on your competency. You have to work on your skill set. People are expecting you to be a technical expert, at least at whatever your responsibility is. It's up to you to build that competency. But number one is caring. You have to get out there and sell the word, sell the message, have that influence on the job site, and don't overthink it. Don't ever feel like you got to know it all. And you have a network around you. I mean, this is a great resource. You know, of course, all the different things that we talked about, and you guys all have your own networks and different things, different opportunities. Get involved. You know, have relationships. Figure out who can you call when you have an issue, and be humble about things, and you'll be surprised just how easy it is to get things done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if y'all have any questions, Mike's information, contact information will be at the end of the slide. Mr. Jeremy, Ms. Bryce, appreciate you all doing this and helping us, and just take these. It's a rain day, nothing going on. Hey, guess what? Learn how to communicate, learn how to love each other and connect with each other. And I guarantee you, what's going to happen is a safety professional, don't focus on safety at all. I want Mike and I, obviously, if you listen to the words that we've shared today, focus on one another, and safety becomes an automatic byproduct.
Exactly.
That you will see, you will experience, and your team will be very successful. Your company will be super successful, and you will be very efficient, and everybody will go home with well-being. Appreciate everyone. Give us a call and spread the word. Be safe.